Tonight, we step into the private chambers of Caligula, not the emperor from books, but the man whose cruelty was crafted in shadows. Here, in the silent spaces behind marble doors, he turned intimacy into punishment, affection into fear, and desire into a weapon no one could escape through these 5 most horrifying intimate acts. Caligula committed the ones that pushed his tyranny into realms few dared even whisper about Rome, like to dress itself in virtue. But Caligula ruled through humiliation, not with swords, but with intimate punishments that shattered people from the inside out. He used bedrooms as weapons, banquet halls as traps. A single command from him could destroy a family's honor in moments. These were not the acts of a madman. They were calculated rituals, personal, precise, impossible to escape. Tonight, you'll step into the 5 horrors that even Rome tried to erase. You sit at the edge of your bed. The room softens around you. A faint torchlight flickers in your mind's eye. You hear sandals scraping across marble floors, and the quiet breath of someone standing behind a curtain. You're not in your room anymore. You're in a palace where silence is more dangerous than screams. Take a slow breath. Let the weight of your day melt away. You're safe here. If these midnight journeys bring you comfort, feel free to like the video and subscribe to my channel. It keeps the lamps burning in our small corner of the dark past. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan become a gentle heartbeat. Slow your thoughts. Loosen your breath. Let the shadows around you settle like calm companions. It's the year 37 AD. Rome celebrates a young emperor, a man they believe will restore his father's glory. They don't know yet that he will turn their loyalty into a weapon sharpened by fear. Tonight, you will walk beside him into the 5 intimate acts that pushed an empire too far. The making of a monster. He arrives in this world carried not by gentle hands, but by boots, armor, and the tired breath of soldiers who've marched too long. They cradle him like a mascot, jokingly calling him Caligula. Little Boots. A cute, harmless name. Names like that usually come back to haunt someone. For a brief slice of childhood, life feels almost tender. Metal clangs softly around him as soldiers sway him to sleep. He grows familiar with the warm scent of leather and campfire ash, believing loyalty is a natural law, and that the men laughing above him will always be there when he wakes. That illusion doesn't last. Rome has a habit of waiting for softness, only to crush it under the excuse of politics. His first lesson arrives quietly, carried in a cup raised to his father's lips. Germanicus falls, not in battle, but through poison delivered with the kind of smile Romans perfect in the Senate. Whispers, grief, an empire pretending nothing happened. The boy watches adults grieve with their backs turned, and a different kind of education begins. His mother tries to shield what remains of the family, but protecting children in Rome is like trying to stop the tide by cupping water in your hands. One by one, she and his brothers disappear into rooms where food does not come and windows stay shut even at noon. No one explains, yet silence speaks its own grammar, and the boy absorbs every sentence, noticing who stops visiting, noticing which guards avoid eye contact, noticing how quiet the villa becomes when fear settles in the walls like damp. Between childhood and early manhood, loss becomes the one routine that never changes. He walks corridors that smell of cold stone and breathes in the soft tremor of servants who already know that this family will not survive long enough to grow old. And then there is Capri, a beautiful island if seen from the sea, cliffs washed in sunlight, water clear enough to see the sand ripple beneath. Up close, it feels different. The air is heavy with expectation, and the villa on the hill holds more secrets than rooms. Tiberius waits there, the man who pruned Caligula's family tree until only one branch remained. The boy arrives not as a guest, but as a reminder that survival sometimes requires performance. So, he performs. He listens at dinner, smiles when spoken to, keeps his thoughts arranged neatly like scrolls on a shelf. Tiberius watches him with the calm interest of a man studying whether a spark will turn into a flame. Capri becomes a 6-year apprenticeship in quiet terror, a long workshop on power, patience, and pretending. People whisper that he is harmless. People whisper a lot of things on that island, most of them wrong. By the time Tiberius dies, the boy who steps off Capri no longer resembles the one carried by soldiers long ago. He doesn't look like a monster, but he walks like someone who finally understands what monsters are made of. And Rome, as usual, isn't paying attention. The emperor who woke up wrong. The day he becomes emperor, Rome exhales. A long, hopeful breath, as if the empire finally believes it has chosen a gentle morning after years of storm. Crowds line the streets, petals fall. Old veterans squint at the young man on the throne and swear they see the ghost of Germanicus in his smile. For a moment, even the marble statues seem relieved. It is rare for Rome to feel optimistic. It feels like borrowing someone else's weather. He plays the role well, kind words, generous gestures. He opens the treasury for public festivals and makes senators believe they have been forgiven for surviving. The city glows in the soft light of a promise too fragile to last. Then the illness arrives, sudden, heavy, the sort of sickness that makes even the priests nervous and forces the palace to whisper prayers at every door. His skin burns. His breath shortens. He slides somewhere between life and another place where memories twist and old shadows sit beside the bed as if called by name. Rome waits. Doctors argue. Offerings pile up in temples until the smoke feels thicker than air. And when he finally opens his eyes, the palace leans in, expecting gratitude. What they receive is silence. Not the gentle kind. The other kind. The kind that folds itself around the room and makes everyone stare at the floor as if the details in the tiles are suddenly fascinating. Something in him doesn't return. Or maybe something old surfaces. Hard to tell. But it's clear he is not the man they cheered for. The warmth is gone, leaving behind a cool, polished stillness that settles into his gestures like a second skin. He begins watching people a little too closely. Not in suspicion, more like someone studying the weight of a glass before deciding whether to drop it. The palace staff feels it first. The air changes when he enters a room. Conversations pause, then restart with careful, sanded edges, as if every word must be filed down before spoken. Rome calls it madness. Rome loves that word. It explains everything without explaining anything. But this change is too precise, too measured, like a man who wakes up and decides emotion is a luxury he no longer owes anyone. The senators whisper. They blame the fever. They blame the gods. Some blame the island of Capri, as if trauma is a souvenir that fits neatly in a travel bag. But the truth rests quietly. A truth no one wants to hold too long. He doesn't lose his mind. He sharpens it, pulls it tight like a bowstring, turns observation into a weapon and silence into a cage. Rome wanted a savior. They received a man who returned from his sickness looking perfectly alive, just not entirely human. And the city, still hopeful, has not yet learned how dangerous hope can be. 5 quiet acts that break a spine. The palace changes first, not loudly, just in the way footsteps start to echo longer in the halls, as if even the marble begins to hesitate. People walk softer. Servants breathe quieter. Everyone senses that the new emperor prefers silence, because silence makes fear easier to hear. And then he begins, not with swords, but with rituals that slip under the skin. Acts designed to bruise something deeper than the body, the part that doesn't heal with time. The first ritual arrives draped in mourning cloth. He lifts his sister Drusilla up toward the heavens and calls her a goddess. The city must grieve the way he commands. No laughter, no evening meals, no warm baths to rinse away the day. Even children learn to hide their giggles behind closed doors. Rome becomes a stage where everyone performs sadness on cue. Some perform better than others. The rest vanish. Then comes the second ritual, quieter and darker. A brothel inside the palace, but not for pleasure. This place is an archive of humiliation. Daughters of noble houses are summoned, their names inked into ledgers as neatly as temple offerings. Families pretend nothing happened, while their reputations bleed out in private. It is cruelty disguised as administration. Rome has always loved good paperwork. The third ritual tastes of wine and applause. A banquet so bright, so full of music and gilded goblets, that you almost miss the dread humming underneath. He smiles. He reaches for another man's wife. He leads her away while everyone stares at their plates and hopes not to be noticed. Later, he returns to the table and describes every detail with clinical calm, as if reporting the weather. Husbands learn to keep their expressions steady, like men balancing cups of boiling water on their palms. Painful, but survivable, mostly. The fourth ritual cuts deeper. A father is summoned to watch his son die. No reason given, none needed. When the grief still clings to his throat, the emperor invites him to dinner. A gentle test. A simple question. Can a man smile after losing everything if smiling keeps him alive? Rome quietly takes notes. And then there is the final ritual, the one he miscalculates. Mocking a man named Cassius Chaerea, believing humiliation works the same on everyone. Most people bend. Some break. A few, however, sharpen. Caligula forgets to consider the last category. The palace corridors hold their breath when Chaerea waits in the shadows, hand steady, resolve colder than marble. A single insult becomes a spark. 30 blades finish what the spark begins. Not poetic, not grand, just efficient. Monsters rarely expect consequences, especially the ones they craft themselves. And Rome, watching from behind half-closed doors, realizes something simple that night. Fear can keep a man in power, but it also teaches others how to remove him. The machine outlives its maker. When the blades finally still, the palace holds a silence thick enough to taste. Some describe it as relief, others as the echo left behind when a storm ends too suddenly. And then the real work begins. Not the mourning. Rome rarely mourns sincerely, but the cleanup. The guards move first. They've served him, feared him, and now remove his wife and child with the same efficiency used for dealing with loose ends. No ceremony, just a quiet correction. Rome likes its pages neat. The Senate sees an opening, a small window of possibility fluttering like a curtain in a room with drafts. For a heartbeat, they imagine a return to the old republic. Cicero's ghost would have been proud. But ghosts don't vote. Legions do. The soldiers find Claudius hiding behind a curtain, a place usually reserved for nervous servants or guests avoiding bad conversation. They drag him out, lift him up, and proclaim him emperor before he has time to finish a sentence. Probably the fastest promotion in Roman history. Power, once released, doesn't vanish. It simply looks for a new set of hands. Hands steady enough to hold it, and practical enough not to question its weight. Rome adjusts instantly. It always does. The same corridors that echoed with terror yesterday now stretch out under a different name, but the footsteps sound familiar. The system continues, as if nothing has changed except the signature at the bottom of the orders. You can almost hear the shift, a soft click, the sound of machinery continuing to turn. Caligula may be gone, but the gears he polished still grind perfectly. Fear doesn't retire, it just gets reassigned. In the Senate, old men pretend they now have influence. The joke plays well for a few weeks. Then the reports arrive. Arrests, confiscations, the quiet reappearance of executions performed at dawn. The senators lower their eyes and return to perfecting their polite smiles. Rome runs smoother when no one looks directly at the engine. Life in the city resumes with that peculiar Roman resilience. Merchants reopen stalls. Children chase each other past the forum columns. Poets complain about politics in the same breath they ask patrons for coin. The empire breathes, but the air tastes the same as it did under Caligula. That's the secret no one wanted to admit. He didn't invent the machine. He merely exposed how well it works. And the machine, humming quietly behind the throne, seems almost relieved to have a new operator. Rome has never liked stillness, and machinery never stops just because the last man falls. The echo that never ends. History likes to pretend monsters appear out of nowhere, dropped into the world fully formed, like bad omens with good timing. But the truth sits quietly in the corner, asking a simple question. What kind of system allows a man like Caligula to feel inevitable? His reign ends in a hallway of blades, yet the ideas he sharpened don't fall beside him. They drift out into Rome with the calm persistence of smoke, finding every open window. The empire studies what he built, not the scandals whispered in bedrooms or the rumors carried by trembling servants. Those details are easy to blame on madness. Madness is convenient. It keeps things tidy. But the structure underneath, the elegant architecture of fear, is harder to dismiss. A blueprint etched deeper than marble, teaching future rulers how to bend souls in ways swords never could. Nero watches, Domitian watches, Commodus watches. Each one learns a different lesson from a teacher they pretend to despise. Rome calls them bad emperors, as if the city itself isn't part of the curriculum. Many documents vanish, burned or misplaced, or quietly removed from archives by men who believe erasing a monster erases the memory of being afraid. It never works. Memory has a way of curling around forbidden things, like a vine searching for light. Centuries pass, and the only pieces that remain are fragments carried by writers who survived long enough to speak, but not long enough to feel safe. Their words tremble a little. Some truths do that. The important parts, the intimate machinery of humiliation, go missing. Not because they lack evidence, but because evidence makes everyone uncomfortable. And discomfort is a poor companion for empires that prefer their mirrors polished. Caligula becomes a story, then a warning, then a shadow on the wall whenever power changes hands too smoothly. A reminder that cruelty doesn't need rage or chaos, or even reason. It only needs a system willing to hold it steady. And Rome, for all its marble pride, was very good at holding things steady. Sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet and the oil lamps burn low, you can almost imagine the old machine humming beneath the floor. The same rhythm, the same cold precision, waiting for a new hand to pull a familiar lever. The question Caligula leaves behind isn't about his cruelty or his excess or the stories carved into stone. It's simpler, sharper, harder to look at. If one man like him could rise without resistance, how many others were simply waiting for the right moment to step forward? The night settles. The echoes fade. The path behind us grows quiet again. You might still feel the hush of marble halls, the soft drag of sandals across cold stone, the distant shimmer of torches flickering against walls that remember too much. That world lingers for a moment, hovering like warm breath in winter air, then slowly folds back into the dark, where it belongs. It's time to return, back to your room, back to your own quiet heartbeat. I close the door to Rome with a gentle hand, letting its weight fall softly, as though we're leaving a sleeping house and don't wish to wake anyone inside. If journeys like this help you drift into calmer nights, feel free to leave a soft touch on this story, a like, a share, or a quiet subscribe to keep these whispered histories alive. No rush, no pressure, just an open seat by the fire whenever you want to return. For now, let your breath slow. Let the quiet settle around your shoulders. Let the world dim like an oil lamp reaching its last warm glow. Goodbye, and we will meet again.